we are covering a movie called Match. It's like Tinder, but make it tubi.
If you'll ever used Tinder before, this might make you want to uninstall it. The story starts with a Temu Topanga getting wheeled away in a dark corridor. As soon as a door is opened, she screams in horror. A young Latina baddie named Paola spends most of her time navigating through dating apps. Eventually, she gets a couple of matches, but whenever she goes on a date, they're weird. Why are all these white men looking way too old for her? One day, she matches with a guy named Henry, and he's fine, smart, and funny as well. They vibe online for a bit, sending memes, flexing their chats, and low-key thirst-trapping each other. Eventually, Henry decides to take it to the next level and invites her over for dinner. Meanwhile, Paola has a sister, Maria, who loves scissoring. When Paola tells Maria about the whole situation with the hot dude, she visibly expresses her discomfort, but Paola tells her she's overreacting. Paola and Maria have a father, Bruno, who has been battling a terminal illness and expresses how he wants a granddaughter badly. He knows Maria has no chance.
Lesbian. Big help.
Whenever Bruno gets overwhelmed, he calls his daughters from time to time, making them sing him a song. Both girls promise they'll be there on his surgery day. To make sure she's not getting catfished, Henry FaceTimes with Paola, and he's fine. However, he loses connection. They agree to meet the day before Bruno's surgery. When she arrives at the house, to her surprise, the door is answered by a much older woman who welcomes her warmly. The woman introduces herself as Henry's mom and tells her that Henry went for a drive and will be coming back home soon. Henry living with his mother would have given me the ick. The woman then invites her in, offers her some wine, and tries to help her get settled, but Paola can't help but notice how strangely the meth had been acting. At first, she creepily glazes her son, telling Paola he's husband material. Then she coughs on the wine glasses that she serves Paola. While she yaps on, Lucille goes into the weirdest detail, describing how massive her son is.
The girls, they really love him for his huge...
Excuse my finest pardon? Paola, feeling very uncomfortable now, texts Henry repeatedly, asking him to hurry back home as his mother is starting to give her the creeps. But she notices that each time she sends a text, Lucille's phone keeps dinging. She immediately thinks about running, but then she starts to feel dizzy. That's why you don't drink Ozempic-laced wine. When she wakes up, she is strapped to a chair being pushed by Lucille through a narrow hallway. Trying her best to resist, Lucille tells her to accept her fate. Lucille then takes her into a room and locks the door. In the room, she gets approached by something that looks like the hunchback of Notre Dame. Paola freaks out, screaming for help. Then all of a sudden, the creature does the unexpected, whipping out something too large. Paola, who is both disgusted at the sight of the creature and how large it is, throws up immediately, and the creature trips on it, knocking its head against a bed and passing out. Concussion by vomit is a new one for Tubi. Paola laughs maniacally, then manages to trip the chair and free one of her hands, which she uses to untie herself. She then wants to kill the Temu substance monster, but sees a picture of him and Lucille. So she breaks the lock on the door instead and bolts through the hallway, searching for a way out. Now barefoot, in the house that somehow happens to have an unreasonable number of doors, she desperately tries each of them, but finds out they're all locked. While she advances through the dark hallways, she accidentally steps on a mousetrap, but still she knows screaming is not an option. So she endures the pain as she detaches her toes from it slowly and continues her search. Eventually, she finds a door that leads her into a bathroom. She cleans her wound and dresses it up effectively. This has an unreasonable amount of toe shots, which I bet stink. The next day, Maria texts her sister to hurry home because it's their dad's surgery day. Lucille responds and says Henry is making her breakfast, then proceeds to ignore Maria's calls. Lucille prepares breakfast and brings it upstairs to the room, but is shocked to see Mr. Fugly on the floor. She immediately resuscitates it by hitting it repeatedly. She then takes the Temu Goonies creature to the bathroom. When Paola hears the sound of footsteps approaching, she quickly hides herself inside a wooden compartment. From her hiding spot, she watches Lucille take care of the troll's injuries, and then realizes the no-neck ugly creature is Lucille's son, and its name is Henry. Lucille happens to be desperate for a grandchild, so she created a fake dating profile and catfished Paola for her son. When Lucille finds out that Henry wasn't able to perform, she does something to her son that will get us in trouble, so we will let your imagination run wild. She advises him to do exactly this to Paola when he finds her. Henry gets excited and promises not to let her down this time, so she hands him a walkie-talkie to use to contact her if anything goes wrong as she leaves. Meanwhile, Maria is already at the hospital, still worried about her sister, and calls the cops. However, they say they can't do anything because Paola is probably just enjoying her time with her Tinder date. So Maria calls Paola's ex for help. Paola realizes she has to GTFO, so she storms out looking for an escape route. She eventually finds an exit blocked off by some weak pieces of wood, so she tries to break them. In the process, she ends up tripping over and making a loud noise. Realizing that Henry is coming for her, she immediately rushes into the next room, where she meets the bodies of girls who were probably Henry's previous victims. Terrified, she hides herself among the bodies as Henry approaches. When he gets into the room, he starts shaking up the bodies one by one to find her. In that same moment, an insect crawls out of the body of one of the girls and climbs onto her, causing her to scream. Henry then drags her out and tries to do something to her, but she finds a mousetrap and clips Henry's package, causing him immense pain. "Y'all, when I tell you it was big, the size queens would gag." She ends up slipping out of his grip. Henry, now in immense pain, contacts Lucille and reports the whole issue to her. Meanwhile, while Lucille is in a Zoom therapy session, she finds a different match for Henry, who appears to be even more attractive. So she immediately loses interest in Paola and asks Henry to unalive her. Just then, we meet Lucille's new match for Troll Henry, and it turns out she's catfishing too. She's a bit more big-backed, and texts Henry naughty things, so Lucille tells her to do stuff too, which she does. This is horror comedy, y'all. Henry then brings out a spiked club, which he intends to use for the job. While still searching for a way out, Paola finds a room where she meets a lot of baby stuff and a normal human baby. When she picks up the baby, things suddenly get twisted as her father shows up, and the baby ends up transforming into Henry. She then wakes up the following morning and realizes the baby stuff was a dream, but she's still in a nightmare. When she leaves the room and advances, she almost runs into ugly Henry, but gets saved by the foreign man on Henry's profile. He introduces himself as Eli and reveals that Lucille had also lured him into the building using a fake profile and had cut off his feet so he would not be able to escape from her. While the two of them catch up on their sad realities, they decide that they must put an end to the whole situation. Together, they come up with a plan where Eli distracts Henry long enough for Paola to retrieve the wheelchair she was strapped to when she was brought into the building. Meanwhile, Maria tracks her sister's phone to the house. Realizing how dangerous things could get, she brings along Ryan, Paola's ex. Through the back door, they witness Lucille add some sleeping pills to a glass of wine, so they realize something sinister is probably going on. After a while, Natalie, the new match Lucille found for Henry, arrives. But Lucille is surprised to see that she's big-backed. Still, Lucille invites her in and offers her some wine, but Natalie turns down the offer. Shortly after, Maria and Ryan ring the doorbell. Lucille is surprised to see them because she didn't invite any guests. When they ask for Paola, she tries to deny any connection to her, but they go in and start searching the place. Identifying them as potential threats, Lucille grabs Maria and tries to attack her, but Natalie steps in and knocks her out. Together, the three then decide to look for Paola. Meanwhile, Paola, who has just managed to escape with Eli from Henry, hears footsteps approaching, so she attacks blindly. In the process, she ends up knocking her sister unconscious. With Maria now being a liability, the group is slowed down. On their way out, they run into Henry, so Ryan decides to man up and go up against him, but he gets taken down easily by Henry. When the rest of the group makes it to an exit route, Henry suddenly shows up again and diabolically unalives Natalie, gouging her eyes out. He then faces Paola and is about to unalive her when Maria's phone begins to ring. Henry pauses and answers the phone. Turns out it's their father who is starting to get anxious again. Maria regains consciousness around that time, so the girls start singing for him, despite their current predicament. Surprisingly, while they sing, Henry, who also happens to be a music fan, gets lost in the moment and starts dancing. The girls then use the opportunity to attack him with his weapon as they escape. When they get downstairs, Lucille, who has regained consciousness, shoots Maria in the arm. She then breaks the most shocking news to Paola, who was already starting to catch legit feelings for Eli. Turns out Eli is her second son, and everything he told Paola was a lie, as he was born a cripple. Him trying to gain Paola's trust was part of the plan as well. While Lucille tries to finish them off, Maria pushes Eli in front of her, causing her to shoot him. Maria quickly uses the opportunity to grab a bottle, which she breaks on Lucille's head. She equally tries to finish her off by choking her on the ground, but Lucille finds a piece of the glass from the bottle and uses it to slit Maria's throat. unaliving her. Paola, furious, tries to grab the gun Lucille dropped, but Lucille beats her to it and tries to shoot her. Henry then shows up. Lucille, noticing how badly the girls injured Henry, orders him to unalive Paola, but Henry seems to have his own plans. He grabs his mother, dislocates her bones, and smashes her head onto the ceiling before letting her down. Paola is surprised as to why Henry protected her, but she leaves immediately. She then goes to visit her father in the hospital for his surgery. The following morning, Paola decides to uninstall her dating apps because they were what got her into the mess in the first place. While uninstalling them, she gets a notification of a new match, and of course the hoe was thirsty and goes on a date.
If you like this video, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications because YouTube isn't recommending my videos. So, if you like to watch more foolishness, you can click here or here.